So we're back for another session with Richard Saucedo, leader of the band here, The Cruise. So you're a judge, DCI, you're a judge, BOA, but you're also a band director and a composer. You've kind of seen the whole spectrum. Walk me through some of the most, maybe the top 2 or 3 common musical mistakes people make with their bands. Go.
If you listen to my tapes, whether it be in the DCI realm or on the BOA front with marching band.
Is it different, by the way, DCI versus, do they make the same mistakes?
I think there are a lot of similar mistakes that are made.
Okay.
And a lot of times, you know, obviously with the drum corps, because of the experience level, things are sometimes done at a little higher level. You have more experience, you have a little stronger players, you have college players versus high school players. But a lot of times the thought process that goes into it is pretty much the same. It may just be at a different performance level. But if you listen to my tapes in any situation, you're probably going to hear me at some point talk about the quality of the sound. And a lot of times, especially in the band world, bands overplay. Kids overplay their instruments. And by that, I mean that they simply overplay past the center of the horn where the horn can't vibrate and create the sound that it's designed to play. I think a lot of us, myself included over the years, are guilty of trying to get too much sound out of our bands just for the sake of volume, and what we lose in that is the quality that we're supposed to be teaching our kids about music and the art form in general.
So what about the 40-piece band out there that's going, but I can't create effect with 40 kids unless they really move some air and get some sound? Because let's be honest, it's easier to create effect with 180 kids than it is with 18 kids.
And again, I can only tell you about my experiences as a judge, or how I would look at that as a judge. But I think I have a lot of other judges that would agree with this, is that if you have 20 members in your wind section and they play with a good sound, they play musically, and they play with variety of textures and emotions, etc., they're going to get a good score from me. I don't care if they're as loud as the 200-piece band. They don't need to be. What they need to do is show me some variety of volume within those 20 wind players. And another thing that sometimes I think as a small band, and you know, you and I both probably started out with small bands.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I remember one of my bands had 17 members in it, you know, when I first started. And one of the easiest ways for a small band is to immediately generate some volume is to have a soloist play for a couple seconds. Right. And then the band comes in, and guess what? It sounds really loud. You know, and so by that time the judges probably forgotten the sound of the band that came before, or 20 bands earlier, even if they were 200 members. What they're thinking right now is, I just heard a soloist, and then I just heard those 20 wind players really affect me just because of that change in texture. So using textures wisely with the smaller bands, I think, is very, very important. Just like I think it's important with the bigger bands. You know, there has to be variety.
You know, one of those things I always talk to my kids about is dynamics is not a volume level, it's the distance between.
Absolutely.
You know, people say, oh, my band is loud. Not compared to that air horn it is.
Exactly.
It's all about contrast. So you think contrast can be achieved regardless of the number? It
really doesn't matter. And the other thing that's important too is that the one thing that can be achieved no matter what the size of your band is that they sound good. You know, sometimes I think to myself, I would love to have just a 20-member band again, because I could literally go in and check every individual player. I could check their embouchures, I could check their sound, I could check their equipment, I could make sure that everything's right, you know. And sometimes I wish that I would have that smaller group, because it's hard to do that with a large band.
Okay, so what I heard from you today, some actual things are, number one, make sure that the kids are producing characteristic sound, not only for the way the instrument should sound, but it's mechanically designed to operate at that volume level, at that resonance, at that. And number two is that when your band is smaller or bigger, that you want to create as much contrast in that sound as possible to create musical interest. And anybody can do that regardless of the size of your group. Right.
And the other thing too would be, real quickly, would be to be musical. No matter what the size of your group, be musical. Play phrases. Make sure your kids don't play every note at the same volume within the phrase. That'll make a huge difference too, whether your band is big or small.
Okay, so those are 3 tips from the master. Thanks for joining us. Take care and be the best leader of the band you can be.